Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem, a postmortem of my Blitz game number 390. I kicked off with d4, and my opponent starts with knight f6, which can introduce a number of different defenses. The King's Indian or Grunfeld starting with g6, or the Nimzo Indian starting with e6. A lot of different ways to play this. After c4, my opponent, however, chooses to move d5, which you see is way down on the list. And the reason is that this is not a particularly good move, and then the way to refute it is to take the pawn. If you play knight f3, you're just going to transpose back into a mainline Queen's Gambit type of position. But you just take the pawn. And if, an interesting way for black to play is to play it with a gambit with either e6 or c6. He doesn't quite have adequate compensation, but it's probably a better try than actually taking back, which is what I mostly see. This opening, I've seen it quite a bit. It's surprisingly popular in Blitz chess. Maybe people are playing it to get you out of your book, but it's just not a particularly good opening. So you bring your knight out first to clamp down on the move e5, and then after black makes his move, he chooses e6. Then you can play the move e4 and kick the knight. So you've gained a tempo on the knight, and you can use this to just get an edge in development and a pretty comfortable game. Now my opponent plays c5 here, an interesting way to get counterplay against the center. And maybe the best response, I could push on with d5 or support it with bishop e3. Those are computer recommendations. Now, what I played isn't horrible. It keeps an edge for white, but as usual, not necessarily the most precise way to play. Bishop d7, and then just castling, because my bishop is adequately defended here. He could trade right away, but he decides to take the pawn first, take back with the knight, and then he develops his knight out with knight to c6. So we get a position where I'm just a little bit better. I just have the better development and more active pieces. He hasn't even castled yet. But you see that there's no immediate way to crash through, so you're on your own. It's not like you're going to just win this game by playing routine moves. You got to find the best moves. Okay, but I keep developing bishop e3. That's not bad. He goes bishop to b4, pinning my knight. And now I decide to start taking things off here. Yeah, the engine recommends this. I guess what I saw was that I would be able to drag the b-pawn over to c6, and then that could become a target later. So this becomes now an active plan for my game. I take the knight. He takes back with the bishop. Now this exposed the queens, and I didn't particularly want queens to come off, although queen takes c6 apparently is a decent way to play. But I played queen b3, still keeping an edge, and I'll have my queen for later when I want to use it. He goes queen e7, and now I do the other exchange. Bishop takes, pawn takes, and I've got this target pawn over here on c6. So I start to line up my pieces against it with rook c1. He finally castles, and so my advantage in development has been transformed into a positional advantage where I've just got the better pawn structure. I have weaknesses to attack. I go with knight a4. I can plant a knight on this square too. That's a square that I can use because I've got control of it with my pieces. So I was thinking of that idea, and actually my opponent's next move is a mistake. He played rook f to c8, and I'm not going to put that move on the board just yet. Here, and let's erase this square. But just imagine the position after rook f to c8, and see if you can spot the tactic. There's a pretty straightforward tactic there. A good tactics quiz for you. So why don't you pause the video and see if you can figure out after rook f to c8 what should white play. Okay, I'm going to give the answer away. I didn't play this in the game. I missed this one. Oh, he plays here. First of all, you exchange off this knight with the bishop. And then you have knight to b6, forking those two pieces. So it's a simple exchange and followed by a fork. So, and it's forcing because the exchange has to be met with recapture. So that just wins the exchange here, and a pawn. So that'd be completely winning. I missed that idea, and I continued with my plan of knight to c5, which is still not bad. I mean, it keeps an edge. It's just that I missed the winning tactic there. It would have made the game a little simpler. He takes on c5. I take back with my bishop. So still keeping a piece on this square. His queen has to move. It goes to c7. And I bring my other rook into the game, rook f d1. All very simple, and rook a to b8. And here I did notice this tactic in the game. Although it's not so simple, but he's lined his queen and his rook up on a diagonal, and my bishop can penetrate to this d6 square. And I'd already noticed that this d6 square was a hole in his position. So this is how positional advantages can turn into tactical ones. You know, he just has to be very careful where he places his pieces when he has all these holes around on his side of the board. So this just loses with bishop d6, although it gets a bit complicated because he has a tempo against my queen. I mean, this rook came here with the idea of moving his knight with a tempo. It just turns out there's no great tempo moves. But knight d7 is maybe the best one, or just moving the queen out of the way with queen b7. I was wondering about, oh yeah, knight out here, I just take it. Yeah, he can't move his knight anywhere to attack my bishop. So anyway, he retreated his knight. Oh, he moved his knight forward to d5, which is an interesting idea. It leaves my my bishop hanging. And, well, if I take his queen, I guess that's probably the simplest way. I didn't play it this way. I take his queen, and he can take my queen. And then I will take his rook. He can take my bishop, and I can take his knight, because he put his knight on a square where it was hanging. So I just stay a rook up. Found a different way to play it, which is still winning. Queen takes rook. I thought this was kind of cute because the queen defends the bishop, so he can't take the bishop, and he resigned here. But if he takes back with the rook, then I take the queen with my bishop, and I'll be up. Let's see. Let's count the material after that. I think it's not quite as good. So if he played rook takes, that's the best move. I play bishop takes queen, and then knight takes c7. Yeah, he's instead of being up a whole rook, I'm just up the exchange. But and a pawn, I can take on c6, and of course, there's back rank threats against his king. He has to be wary of. He can't take my pawn, for example. So anyway, a winning edge in either case, but the other way, just grabbing the queen would have been simpler. So after the move, queen takes b8, however, he resigned, and that's how the game ended. So leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.